Welcome back to Battle at the Border, and it looks like we've got Finz back. No more Prime, which is good because last week we beat him
Thank
28 to
God.
15, and we like a little bit closer battles here on Battle at the Border. So how you doing, Finz?
Good man. That 28-15 score seems to be pretty indicative of your score against him this year in the SML, right? So it's just not
Pretty
a
close,
surprise.
pretty close. So let's start with the first topic. First topic. This is Final Simbardi, right? Season 41. This is it. We're moving on to the next cycle after this. Hell, we might be moving on during this. Uh, Final Simbardi. Who do you have, Prime or the Field?
And after my shot, I just took at Prime. I'm gonna say Prime, actually.
All right.
I think for the SML playoff contenders, which is obviously not me, a Prime who's playing well and a motivated Prime is a bad combo. I think the fact that because you locked up the division, correct?
Correct. And the number one seed.
Right, so that means he's probably going to play Dan probably what round two.
Second round. Yeah.
So
I think he's going to
that's
play
going to
the Browns to start. It looks.
right, and I mean he beats up on Old Man Woods, and then he's going to be like hot coming in, and the narrative he's going to Dan can't beat me in the playoffs. He's going to bring all that stuff up, play that mental game. He's going to be hyped after that win, and then provided you make it through, which you probably should. That sets up another big game, and he's going to be super motivated to break that narrative because you've destroyed him both games this year. So, yeah, I got Prime.
Okay. See, I don't think he's playing really that well. I think playoff Prime obviously different. He's going to be a little more focused, a little more motivated. Especially if he ends up facing me in the second round. You know, I beat him pretty handily the first two times this season, so I'm sure he's going to come out looking to kind of avenge that. However, look at his game against October. He made this big deal about greatest comeback of all time. You had to come back against a 3-10 team that has not been good really all cycle outside of like the first 8 weeks of season one. So great comeback, but it's a comeback that never should have happened. Then he played Colt. He kept talking about he was going to just blow him out. Colt ended up throwing for, I think, almost 250 yards, 3 touchdowns on him. Colt couldn't do anything against my defense. Colt hasn't done much all year except throw lots of picks with Josh Allen. So I think he's kind of, I don't know if he's coasting through the regular season, but I know he wants to win the South. He doesn't want to lose division titles, and so I don't think he's coasting that much. And I think this benching starters against Dan, it's almost a little bit of fear on his part. I think he's afraid Dan's gonna beat him, so he's gonna sit the starters, pretend like he's just taking it off, and that way when Dan wins, it's oh well I didn't play my starters or anything. But what's gonna get him now? He's taking a week off. He's gonna then play Dan in the playoffs, round two. He's gonna get Woods probably round one, depending on what happens with that AFC North, which is how the computer Ravens could end up winning the division because no one wants to win that division, it seems. And
Yeah.
Woods will win the division, but he's not going to be much of a challenge for Prime. I think last time they met in the playoffs, it was like 45-0. Prime beat him. So he's going to basically come into the game with Dan with 2 weeks off, and that could be a problem. I think Dan's going to come in focused, especially after that loss to Faz. He's going to lock in, and I think he's going to give Prime some trouble. And I think Prime is kind of worried about it right now, the way he's struggled against some teams.
Yeah, I mean, he could be. I mean, he bangs that drum that Dan can't beat him, right? So eventually that's probably going to correct itself at some point. I just think, I mean, Prime constantly says that he's not a regular season player, right? He lives for the big moments, and this is setting up to play some of his bigger rivals to just continue to build that narrative for him. So I just don't see him not doing it.
Yeah, but I think at the same time, so he's, we're saying Prime or the Field. Right now, we've only talked about the AFC side. We haven't even talked about, if he faces Faz, if he faces RD or one of those teams from the NFC, if he does make it through the AFC. And then just looking at the odds, number one, you're taking the Field is a lot more than just one team. So I can have anybody win, and the field is going to win. And then on top of that, he's only won 2 Simbardis, so 2 out of 7. Still odds are someone else is going to win it. So I'm going to take the field in this one.
Good luck.
All right, let's go to topic 2. Topic 2. Rowan lost to Field earlier, and when we first came up with these topics, and actually since then he's lost again to Clink. Do you think it was a fluke these last 2 games, or do you think it's the start of him coming back to earth? And I'll take this one to start, and I think it was a fluke. I think Rowan is probably for real. He's in the last 2 games now with the Clink game. He's thrown 7 of his 12 interceptions. So before that, we're talking 5 interceptions, and I kind of use that as an indicator of who's going to be a good team. If you can avoid turning the ball over, you're probably going to have a lot of success in this league, because you look at those top 5 guys that throw picks, and they're all on losing teams. Nobody throws 30 picks a season and is on a winning team. So I think Rowan maybe just kind of slipped up against Field. He probably, in my opinion, he probably got a little too full of himself and thought, he can just walk in there and beat anybody without taking the game serious. And then Field kind of kicked him in the teeth. And then Clink, division opponents, they always play each other fairly tough. And Clink obviously is playing for his playoff life, so maybe he had a little more going into it. And you got the whole Thanos club, whatever. They may have just kind of took it easy on Clink there to help him push Meats out. Hell, he even did a poll on should he let Clink win, and the majority of the people said to let Clink win, so Meats misses. So I think those 2 games are probably a fluke. Now I do think playing like that could get you into like a little funk where you start to snowball into some bad gameplay. But as far as those 2 games, I don't think they're really that indicative of how he's done all year and how he actually is. I think it was just a fluke.
Yeah, so I'm going to say it wasn't a fluke. I mean, despite Fields' record lately, he does have a history of being a good player. So beating Rowan, I guess, necessarily isn't a surprise. But, 2 losses in a row when you're fighting for your playoff life is definitely not a good way to go about things, for, if I can state the obvious here. And the fact that, he's got this bravado. Faz changed his tag to old heads, like I'm coming for you or whatever it was. I think maybe the pressure might be getting to him a little bit here, and I don't know if he's for real anymore. I'm you made a good point about the division rivals. Anyone can kind of take that, but I don't know. That loss to Field, I think, despite the fact that I just said Field does have history of being a good player, I don't know. That's not a good look, man.
See, I think the loss to Field was just a fluke. I think he's coming straight off the sit down. So he just had that little interview with Prime where he completely, about as cocky as could be. And I think it carried over into that game where he kind of bought into his own hype that he was, going to just blow out Field. Didn't take him serious. And that offense, I mean, Field just needs to pretty much throw it to a guy and put the controller down, and his players are good enough where they're going to make guys miss on their own, especially on the defense. He's got Devin White. He ended up forcing, I think, 3 or 4 interceptions that game. I think Rowan just kind of bought into his own hype, didn't really take the game serious, thinking it was Field, and he'd just steamroll him. And then by the time he realized he was in trouble, it was too late.
Yes. Can we talk about Field for a second?
Yeah.
You watched Field run the football?
Not very far.
I have. Yeah, I asked him in one stream. I'm like, "Why don't you juke?" He's like, "I don't know how. I can't. My thumbs don't work that way. Like you literally just move it to the right or left." Like he's got this great running back. Like I know we're kind of going off a tangent here. I can't believe he beat Rowan. I guess Rowan's rush defense is still really strong, right? Like he's still top 5, I think. Yeah. So I guess he didn't need to beat him running, but I don't know, with running being broken, which it definitely is, how he can't run better with such a good back.
Yeah, I don't get the thumbs don't work that way. But if the thumbs don't work that way, here's a little pro tip for you: press the circle button and spin. That's you don't need your thumbs to work any certain way other than to just press the button.
Especially when you have a guy like Hendricks, right?
Yeah, yeah, Hendricks does just fine with that. I'm sure Rojo will do just just well enough, at least to be better than run right into the defender. All right, so let's move on to our third topic. Third topic, and it was brought up in chat earlier, and the topic is: should we go to 48-hour advances? It seems to be working fairly well. You know, we're late in the cycle, and trying to get in before that EA Play trial or the release of 22. But do you think it should carry over to Madden 22? Should we go to the 48-hour advances?
No, I no, man. I think it's working well right now because you got guys like Coop who have been banging the drum to get this over with. It's just like, let's get this. Like they're trying, instead of it having a slow death, we're trying to have a fast death. People are done. They want to get their games in, and I think that's the reason why it's working right now. Like it works for me too because I'm off all summer, so I can bang these games out pretty quick. I think now that because your guys' kids or people, most people who have kids, they're back in school now. Life just gets a lot busier. So having that 3-day advance period, I think, is a lot more advantageous for everyone and works best for everyone as opposed to a 48-hour advance. No, man, it wouldn't work for Madden 22.
See, this is where I disagree because 48-hour advance is already working and worked pretty much the whole cycle. Um, I don't have the time nor the desire to go back and look and see how many games were simmed during the week in Madden 21 due to people missing them. But we're already on a 48-hour advance. Monday to Friday or Monday to Thursday is 48-hour advances. We do advance Sunday night, advance again Tuesday night, advance again Thursday night. So 2/3 of our advances are already 48 hours. And then you have the weekend, which is generally the time that most people have a bigger window that they're able to play. And we drag it out to from all the way from Thursday night to Sunday night. And I don't think that's necessary. And you talk about guys trying to get the season over with already. But within 15 minutes of advance, RD and Woods had already scheduled their game for the following advance day. So it's not like guys are really rushing that much. You still have the guys that as soon as we advance, they try to drag it out as long as possible. Now, maybe they had something going on, but it seems like you have the same group of guys always schedules for the last day of advance. And I think whether it's 48 hour, 72 hour, 96 hour, it's not going to matter. They're still going to schedule the same way.
Yeah, I think the two 48-hour advance windows that we have already are because no one does anything during the week anyway, right? Like we're most of us except for the Generation Zs, like the Meats and the Rowans, like you, me, Mike, RD, like we're not going out. Or Matt, I guess RD's gonna be mad I put him in that group there, but we're not going out to the bar on Tuesday evening, right? So like, I mean, what else is there to do on a Tuesday night? There's no football on, might as well play Madden, right? So I think that's why that works better. But I think that the reason why it's working now is just like I said, it's everyone just wants this terrible game done.
Well, if that's true, then go ahead, schedule your games a little sooner so we can actually make up a day and get done before Madden 22. 10-hour trial gets done. All right, so let's move on to topic 4. Topic 4, we've heard a lot of people kind of hyping this team up and not really sure why. But do you think the Giants will be a top 10 pick in the team draft?
I'm going to say no. Despite the fact that they have been getting a lot of hype recently, there's been a lot of talk about they're really fast on offense. I think their defense is still a little suspect. Their back end, their DBs aren't necessarily top notch that a top 10 guy picking in the league would want. And I just think that looking at the draft order and seeing who's there, in no particular order except for the first one I'm going to name, which we all know the Colts are going first, right? I can see after the Colts, I can see Jags, Chiefs, Browns, Bills, Niners, Cowboys, Skins, Cardinals, and Chargers all being taken before the Giants. To me, those teams are all better than the Giants as it is, and there's probably a couple more I can add in there too. Um, you can probably even put the Ravens in there, I think. Um, and then I don't know, Dolphins. I see the Dolphins going there too. So there's already 12 teams there that I see that can go before the Giants. So no, I don't think they're going to be a top 10 pick.
All right, so I think they are going to be a top 10 pick. Number one, they've been hyped up a lot. Regardless of whether they deserve to be a top 10 pick or are good enough to be a top 10 pick, I think it's very possible somebody buys into that hype and they take the Giants in that inside that top 10. We've already seen MYT kind of hashtag Giants, hashtag 49ers and the Titans. So he's already backed off his, Titans for Madden 22 and left the door open for another team. And the Giants are one of those teams. And when you look at the Giants, so you said their secondary is pretty bad, right? So they have a 90 overall corner, an 81 overall corner. They've got a free safety in Logan Ryan that's an 83, and then a strong safety in Jabril Peppers, who's 81. They've got Julian Love back there to back up Peppers. He's a 75. He's not bad either. And then backing up Logan Ryan, you've got a 74 in Xavier McKinney, who's going to come in under that speed threshold to be a sub linebacker. And then with Adoree Jackson, Darnay Holmes, that's two guys, or not Darnay Holmes, James Bradbury. You got your two corners above 80, which to start the cycle is pretty good. So the secondary, I actually don't think the secondary is much of a problem. If I had an issue with the Giants, it would probably be on their defensive line. But what's going to happen is you've got a lot of speed on this team at wide receiver. You've got Galladay, who's the number one receiver at 85. He's going to be a little slower with his 90 speed, but you've got Darius Slayton with a 93. You've got Pettis 91. You've got John Ross, who's going to be, depending on the user, could be a Madden god at 96 speed. And then you've even got the rookie Kadarius Toney with a 93 speed. All that, and I haven't even mentioned, you have Saquon Barkley. A lot of this league is going to be really reactionary. You saw how big halfbacks were this year. You had to have a good running back in order to be competitive, right? And Saquon Barkley is going to probably be one of the best running backs in Madden 22 from the beginning. And I think somebody's going to see that. They're going to combine it with the speed they have at receiver. And that offense, I didn't even name Evan Ingram, who's going to be one of the fastest tight ends. And I think that's going to be enough that they're going to think they can build up their defense through the draft, through free agency, whatever. And that offense is going to be one of the top offenses in the game right off the start.
Yeah, they have the potential to be on offense. My issue, I guess, besides the fact that I wasn't too keen on the secondary. I think Daniel Jones. I don't know how he's going to be rated. And I think with the Saquon Barkley thing, I think the fact that EA always tends to kind of overcorrect. So like the running game has been very strong this game, and I think next year there's probably going to be a little bit more emphasis on the pass, which would de-emphasize the running back again. Because there was was it like Madden 18 or Madden 19 where the running game was really, really strong. Like we had guys, I think already in our league that year ran for almost 3,000 yards with like a bum. Like it was just like a fast guy who was pretty agile. And then the following year running was kind of de-emphasized. So I know Barkley's really good still, but I think if you de-emphasize the running game, he's just not going to be as OP. So, and I mean, there's no way that we're going to know that until we actually get into the meat and potatoes of the game. But I just see that them overcorrecting that and then a little bit more emphasis on passing. And if there's going to be an emphasis on passing, Daniel Jones is going to struggle for you.
So I see Daniel Jones. He's got an 87 throw power, which is really, if we're looking at a knock on Daniel Jones, that's it, right? It's you're saying he's got a weak arm. He also has 88 speed. He's going to be one of the faster quarterbacks in the league. So which kind of follows that whole speed trend. My thing with the running game, you said EA kind of overcorrects. Last year, there was a guy in the SML that was on the Raiders, had like 3,000 yards in the season. come into this season or this cycle, and running games still you can run over teams. Um, but I think even if they overcorrect, Saquon Barkley at that point then makes the Giants even more attractive because now you can't run with just any running back. You need an elite running back because regardless of how the run game is, running itself is going to be important to winning. It doesn't matter if it's overpowered or not. You have to run the ball to win. You can see just looking at our interception numbers. If you want to try and air it out, unless you're one of the top 2 or 3 guys in the league that doesn't throw picks, you're probably going to be in trouble. So if you want to win, you've got to run the ball. If they make it where it's running is more difficult, that to me boosts Saquon Barkley's stock because now he's one of the few guys that can run as opposed to just one of 32 guys that can run for 2,000 yards.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're onto something there. I just think that it's going to be de-emphasized. He's just not going to be as OP. Daniel Jones is 88 speed. I'm curious to know what his change of direction and agility is, considering he had that long run and then just
lucky
tripped over.
for you, I have those right now. So he's got an 83 agility and 77 change of direction.
Someone on the dev team must be a Giants fan.
Yeah, which is better than most of the sub linebackers. So he actually could
I
be.
guess time will tell now.
He could actually have the opposite effect and be really good. That 87 throw power, that would kind of concern me. But as we've seen this year, you got Jalen Hurts and Russell Wilson doing just fine with like 84s and 85s. So an 87, maybe not that bad. He's young enough, could get star. You can dev him and probably get 1 or 2 points. Put him in that 88, 89 range anyway.
Yeah, in the right hands, they could probably be pretty powerful in offense for sure.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, they've been hyped up so much during this time frame that we've been talking about Madden 22 that I think somebody's gonna buy into the hype and they'll draft them. The question wasn't should they be a top 10 pick, it was will they, and I think the hype combined with all that speed they have, and not to mention, we're talking about the roster and everything. We didn't even talk about how they have extra draft picks, which could make them more attractive as well.
Yeah, I think too though, like if just to kind of add to my point too, if you go Washington, which I know you've hinted at before, and another really strong owner goes, Grams, right? Grams. This is kind of an outlier season for him. He could go there too. That's 2 pretty strong teams. It might shy someone away in the top 10 from going there, right? So that could be because Grams is probably going to go Cowboys, right? And he picks top 10, I believe.
That's who I've got him taken.
Yeah. So if you go Skins, he goes Cowboys. Giants may fall, and then a guy like Matt, is just laughing, right?
Oh yeah, he's been one of the ones that's hyped them up the most, which is funny because I'm sure he's dying for them to fall to him. But
for sure,
you would think he'd hype them up a little less. The other thing is, in that scenario, if I go Washington and Grams goes to Dallas, who gets the Bears? Because now that Bears team, if they fall enough and could end up in 2-step gets the Bears, that pick that the Giants have now becomes a lot more attractive as well. So
yeah, absolutely.
It could definitely depend on who gets what teams could determine how attractive those picks are as well.
Oh, for sure. Like, can you imagine if, no slight, he's my division mate, but if Figs gets the Rams,
oh yeah,
Lions owner's like, oh yeah, he's excited.
Yep, you've got two top 5 picks coming to you. I mean, and if he takes the Rams,
he's probably going to trade Aaron Donald.
Yeah, and he's going to have enough trouble beating the 49ers and the Cardinals, regardless of who has them. And even Seattle, the first 2 seasons is going to be good because they're old, but they're good right now, and that's when the picks you're losing. Yeah. So
they're ready to win right now.
Yeah, the Lions may be attractive if depending who gets the Rams. I could see them right now. I have them probably as one of my bottom 3 teams, maybe a little higher because of the picks, but I mean if somebody middle of the draft takes the Rams and they're a guy that's going to have a top 5 picks, man, you can see that Lions team. They may be the next pick.
Yeah, they're on my list for teams that I kind of expect to be there for me.
Hmm.
So I wouldn't mind, keeping them just because they have that draft capital, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have a good team, you might as well have the resources to make one. So,
Absolutely.
all right, we got a little off topic on that, but that's okay. So our last topic, um, and this one may ruffle some feathers, but should guys who don't win as often still be held accountable to the rules? And just watching, like if you watch some of the games, you'll see some rule violations by the guys that don't really win many games. I've seen guys go for it on 4th and 20 in the second quarter. Guys going for fourth downs on outside of the ranges in the third quarter. A lot of fourth down things. Guys having suspensions and not actually serving the suspensions, and nobody really cares because they're a 3-win team, 5-win team, whatever. Um, you don't lose the game, so you don't complain about it. But should those lower guys be held to the rules just as strictly as everyone else? And I'll let you take this one.
Yeah, I'm as well as the person on this panel that doesn't win a lot. I'm going to say for obvious reasons, yes. Um, you know, once you let owners kind of become lax on the rules, definitely becomes a slippery slope. And then you have, you know, because one of the great things about this league is we have a lot of guys who watch a lot of streams, right? So
Yep.
if Foz, for example, watches me, go for it 4th and 20 in the second quarter. Sorry, my cat turned on my robot vacuum. He's gonna be like, well, why can't I do that? Right? Like if he sees me do that, and then there's a situation point, like for example, if he was losing big against Dan in the second quarter, if the game went a little different yesterday, and he sees me do that to him, like, well, Finz did it. Why can't I do it, right? And especially if mine went unpunished,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, I think I think it's the easy way to say absolutely. But I think, I mean, I've come from running, I've ran a couple leagues before, and you just, once it becomes that, it's really hard to return from that. Like you almost have to you have to overcorrect and come down real hard on guys. And then it just becomes, you get guys that want to leave because now they're getting, hey, how come he got punished? I didn't, like I got punished, he didn't, kind of thing. And it just leagues die that way. So yeah, yes, everyone needs to be held to the same standard.
So I, I like the idea of holding everybody to the same standard, but I think you could run into a problem. I don't mind, if a guy's getting blown out, like the other day, somebody was getting blown out 4th and 20 in the second quarter. They go for it towards the end of the half. What, it's not going to change the game, and I think the problem you're going to run into is if you have these guys that consistently 3-13, 2-14. The guys that they're playing because they enjoy playing in the league. I mean, they're not really winning many games. If you start then hammering them for, hey, you went for it on this fourth down, or you did a play action on 3rd and 8. I think you're going to kind of, they're already getting beat, and you're just kind of kicking them while they're down, and I think you may drive some of them out of the league. And it's got to be tough to keep a team that doesn't win frequently in the league. So if you got a guy they're active, they're playing their games on time, they're doing everything right, they just get frustrated, go for it on fourth down, heave it up, whatever. I think you may run the risk of running them out of the league, and then you lose a good member who, while he's not winning a lot of games, he's at least an asset to the league. And if it's not going to make a difference in any game, I don't want to say who cares, because it is a sim league and we have rules for a reason. But overlooking it, is it really hurting anybody? I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, I see your point with them being a good good for the league, but I'm gonna counter that with, if you can't follow the rules and you don't play sim, then in my opinion you're not a good fit for the league, right? Like Prime, the way he builds leagues, I totally agree with. I think, like, he called me up, for example, knowing that I wasn't going to be someone who goes 14-2, right? But I play sim. I follow the rules. I'm active, all that kind of stuff. Here's an example for me. I was playing Foz. Foz was kicking my butt. Like it was like 27-0 late in the fourth, and I got the ball back, and I didn't want to get shut out, right? So I was driving, and with about a minute left, maybe a little bit less, just reactively, I called the timeout, right? And right after I did it, I was like, oh my God, I shouldn't have done that. Like, that game's over, right? I should have just let it go. But it was just reactionary. I hit the pressure pad or whatever in the middle, called timeout. Right after I apologized to Foz. Foz was like, oh, it's not a big deal. Like, I don't want to get shut out either. But like, I was almost midnight, so I didn't want to tag Prime because I know he's probably tuckered out from all that chocolate milk and baths he had the night that during the day. So Meats was up, so I just let Meats know, right? I like basically snitched on myself. I felt terrible, but it wasn't intentional. It was like a reactionary thing.
Yeah.
But for me, even though I lose a lot, I want to play the right way, right? So I felt awful about it, and he said, it's not a big deal. Like, don't worry about it. Like, that rule is more about on defense. If you're on defense and you're calling timeouts and you're losing 27-0, then that's kind of a dick move. But yeah. I still felt awful about it, and so for me, I'd rather make sure I play by the rules. So I'm not a win at all cost guy.
Okay.
So.
Okay. All right, so we'll let the league decide. So like we've done every other week, feel free to leave your comments on the score down below. Score's how we did. We'll keep track. We like I said, 28-15 last week. Don't want to hold that against Finz that Prime was really bad at arguing his points. But make sure you leave the comments. Hopefully, now that we got Finz back, we'll get back over that 100 views mark. Prime kind of gave us a hit to our viewership, so we'll see if we can recover what we lost by having him on. But we actually have one more segment that we're going to add to Battle at the Border, and this is our parting shot. We spent the entire episode disagreeing, and I think maybe we should end with a little agreement. And Field came up in his podcast with I think it was Faz and Meats. I think it was the what do you say, the last play in the field possibly. And he brought something up. I don't think anybody agreed with it on there, and I think we're going to be in agreement here as well. What do you think about this no switching and stay in your zone rules that Field proposed?
Field, my guy. As someone who struggles on defense, as someone who does not have a good user, as someone who routinely gets torched through the air, I think that's a terrible idea. I feel like I'm making strides, even though it may not look on it. I feel like I'm making strides at being able to user better this year. And I feel like if I was my middle linebacker and I had to stay in that little yellow area on the field, I would be getting flagged for unsim play constantly. There would be no way that I could do that, or I'm coordinated enough to switch off and it stay in that zone. And actually, no, I can't switch because there's no switch rules either. So yeah, there's no way I could stay. I think it's absolutely impossible. And I think that, man, you are insane if you think that's a good idea.
Yeah. So for a game that everybody complains is broken and zones don't do what they're supposed to, it seems to me that limiting your team like that, or your user ability, is it just doesn't make sense to me why you want to put more control in this supposedly broken game. And if you really think that the guy usering with the way they tone down, change the direction, if you really think that's the problem with why you can't move the ball or what's going on, you're going to be really disappointed when you're forced to stay in your zone, and these teams like Dan, Faz, and Prime just pick you apart. I get why you'd want guys to stay in their zone if they're using the middle linebacker and you're throwing to your running back 61 times a season. Because I either have to play as a corner in the flat or something like that, because I can't cover that running back on your little swing pass that you run 61 times a season. I think Ronald Jones had 79 catches last season, which is ridiculous. Um, so yeah, if I have to stay in my yellow zone with my middle linebacker, you can run your swing pass 179 times now, and no one can cover it. Um, but you're just taking more control out of the user's hand and leaving more up to the game. At some point, you might as well just set your lineups and just click sim and just see what happens, because you don't want to be able to do anything user wise.
Yeah, and can you imagine playing in a division with guys who run tons of like slants and drags,
Yep.
and you're stuck on the guy in between the hash marks? That would change if that rule was in there. That would completely change the dynamic of the draft, because most people in my mind would basically pick their team based on who is in their division and play style, right? Because a guy like me who likes to throw, I run and then try to heave it up 80 yards like an idiot, that's easier because for me to stay on the safety the entire time, right? But for a guy who throws 3 yards every play, right? Like, was it you that was playing someone who had 9 completions for 72 yards?
That was Noel the other night.
Yeah.
And that was after like a 20-yard completion. It was even worse than that prior to that one.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. Like there would have to be a revamping of the play style rules, in my opinion, on offense.
Yeah. In
order for make that rule to work. I just don't see that being a good idea.
No, and it would change a lot of things. Like, so what? Who's enforcing it, first of all? Because somebody's got to watch every game, and then you don't even know if I'm not streaming. If I'm the team that's not streaming, you don't know what my defense is anyway. How do you know what zone I'm in or what I hot routed the zone to? So it literally is only going to hamstring the person who's streaming the game. The rest is going to be on the honor system, which may or may not work. And then outside of that, so what if I put my guy in a quarterback spy? Now he can go anywhere, and like there'd be ways around it. You can say I got to stay in my zone, but if I'm spying the quarterback, I can pretty much go anywhere. Or like just to cover the flats, I have to put my guys in man, or I don't like how it changes the way you play based on trying to not have any user input. I don't really
Sorry, I was going to say, like, you put your guys in the flat, so now you have no one rushing because you put your two DTs in hook zones. You put your two DEs in flat zones. So you have no one rushing the quarterback. The quarterback's got all time to play just so you have the whole field covered, right? It would be a nightmare. Yeah, it would be an absolute nightmare.
I see zero benefit to it. It just doesn't make sense to me to take control out of the user's hand in a game where we're playing against each other.
Yeah, I did. And then you got Fig will put his DT in a deep blue.
Probably.
So his DT's running back 30 yards.
I'm not convinced there's not guys that don't do that already. So, but I think I think we beat that up enough. I'm sure for our parting shots and our last topic, we'll probably get some heated comments, some spirited debate. But that's good. Just leave the comments below, like and comment on the video with your scores, and we'll tally it up for next week's episode, which hopefully next week's episode will be after the Super Bowl has concluded. Hopefully, with any luck, we'll be done by then. But that's been it.
Get Team Canada our first win. Come on, let's go.
He is looking for his first win, but you can also help Team USA complete the sweep. This one's ran a little long, but I think we got some good debate out of it, and especially for our last one of Madden 21. Fingers crossed, hopefully. But welcome back, Finz. Good to have you back on.
Be back.
Hopefully for many more episodes, and hope you guys enjoy watching. Like I said, leave your comments below, and this has been Battle at the Border.